Hi everybody, it's Mike Amato and I want to thank you for joining me today. I also want to thank all the new subscribers, as quite a few of you joined after watching my video on relationships. Thank you for joining, and thanks for your feedback on that video. I really appreciated it, and in fact gave me a chance to talk to some of you, answer a couple of emails, and today's video comes from one of those emails. In that email I was asked by one of the new subscribers if I had any tips for them this week, as they have a big job interview coming up and they want to increase the likelihood of getting hired. So they said, from an executive standpoint, what tips would you have to really help me stand out? Well, I love this question because it's a passion of mine. Remember, I think it's really important. With a bunch of other outstanding candidates applying for the job, you need to find a way to stand out. So I love doing this, and I love talking about it from two sides. One is the person applying for the job, and boy, I've applied for a lot of jobs. I've been interviewed a ton of times. In almost every change in my career, I was interviewed and had to pass the test before I'd be hired. At the same time, I've hired many people, and so I know what it's like from the other side of the desk, and I'll try to combine those two things, those two levels of experience, into sharing with you 6 things that I think you can do that will help you be more successful, or make sure that you get the job that you want, in terms of success in doing that. So with that in mind, the first thing is I would share with you point number 1. Always ask the question, what problem are you solving? Now, you heard me say this in other videos as well, but in this regard, I think it's very interesting to think about. If you're a candidate that comes to the interview, and if you think about what problem you're solving, and it's framed through the ideas or through the lens of, here's my background, it's the next logical step. I think I'm ready for my career to advance. I'm excited for my family to experience maybe a relocation, or whatever the answer might be. All those answers are about the candidate, me. And I would ask you to sort of change the lens just a little bit, shift it just a little bit, and say, what if the reason you were there, what problem you're solving, was the company's problem? Because remember, the person interviewing for you for the job has some sort of a need. And that need may be to solve a problem. It may be to fill a capability gap. It may be to replace somebody who's left, or even it might be promote you to a new position. Whatever it is, the company has a need they're trying to fill. So if you go to that interview saying the problem I'm solving is the company has a need and I'm here to fill it, the answers to your questions will all align around that in a much more different way that presents a much different sort of energy than if all the responses are through the lens of what's in it for you. Now, I don't want to make too much of this point, but I can say that a lot of people that have the most coaching, MBA students, for example, even people with doctorates, tend to do more of the former, which says, I'm here because I did a little of this, and then I thought I should do a little of that, and so you should hire me because I've got like a cafeteria approach to my career. And I would caution you against that. In spite of what business schools might want to teach you, or might be teaching you, I would ask you to reframe that and say, remember, the company's trying to solve a problem, and that's what this role exists for. Now, it may coincide with your next step in your career, and that's all fine and good. But just remember, if you come at it through that energy, you'll be much more successful in conveying the answers that you want in terms of why you're the most qualified candidate. All right, enough of that. Number 2 is assumptions. Make no assumptions. This is an incredible miss by so many people, again, even up to the executive levels. First thing, just very, very simple things. A lot of people assume that when you come to the interview, all the resume that you've sent in from the previous, maybe you sent it in through email or through a previous interview with human resources or whatever, you assume that they'll have their resumes with them, or they'll have your resume with them. And I would say, do not make that assumption. It's quite dangerous. If you think about the individuals that are coming from all over the company, they may not have had time to click on the attachment and print. Or maybe they left the papers in their inbox as they ran from one meeting to another meeting. So don't assume anything. For heaven's sakes, bring 7 copies of your resume with you to the interview. Make sure you offer them at the beginning of the interview. It shows you're polished, you're professional, and you're prepared. Even though they might have your interview right there, I wouldn't even assume that they read it. Prepare for all the questions that they might ask you, and prepare to draw the focus of the questions or the answers to the targeted skills that you have, or the targeted experiences that you want them to see or to focus on. So make sure that you're prepared. You can answer all the questions. The ones that are most difficult are the ones that are around experiences. And more companies are getting pretty smart about asking questions about experiences. And just so show me a time when you have done this, or you have displayed that, or this value is really important to us. Have you ever had a time in your career where you've done that? Do your research beforehand, understand what the values are, and think about your experiences beforehand so that you can answer them to the spirit of the questions. And you'll find you can target the key capabilities that you have much more effectively. Last little tip on this, regards to this item number 2. The last little tip is this, regarding references. We always put in our resumes available upon request. You can say it on the resume, that's fine. But come to the interview, why don't you go to your references and ask them for 3 or 4 letters from your key advocates? Bring them with you. Bring 7 copies of all the letters so they don't have to share them. Okay, so bring 7 copies. And then you can say, hi, I know you might be wanting to understand my references or learn more about my references. I brought some right here for you to see, and the contact information for each person is on there. So please take a look and feel free to contact them. Again, you look so professional, so polished, and I promise you different. Not many people do that. Okay, not complicated again. Everything on this list is so simple. Hey, number 3. Think about this. You're going there and you're sitting down. You're announcing your personal brand, okay? You're announcing who you are and what you stand for. Now, you want to do it in a way that's got some power behind it, but not in an arrogant and a challenging way. And it's a fine line, and I think you probably know what I mean. But look, if I come in there and I'm ready to answer questions, I'm ready to say how I can help the company with the problem that they're trying to solve, and I'm thinking about it that way, I'm going to convey things that I'm smart, I'm driven, I'm strategic, I'm experienced. That is very, very important in terms of the persona that you want to create and the energy that you want to send. Again, I've had people come in and they're probably a little too arrogant, which is also, arrogance is nothing but an outward sign of inward insecurity. So when they come in a little too arrogant, or they're challenging, or they learn somewhere that they need to take control of the interview, actually can shoot themselves in the foot. So relax, but relax by saying, hey, I am here because I'm able to be here. I'm here because I'm capable of being here. And I'm going to have that energy when I describe my personal brand throughout all my answers. You want to convey all these characters in each of your responses. Now, look, two specific things. Number 1 is as the interview runs its course, interviewers ask, okay, what questions do you have for us? And they sort of sit back and put their pins down. In other words, it's time for them to relax because they've been listening very carefully and they're sitting back. So now they're done writing. Have your questions ready. Most people approach this and say, oh, when will you make a decision? How will you notify me? Do you have my contact details? Again, not illogical, just not very effective. What if you had a chance right then to ask a very strategic question? Hey, I just saw in the news that you guys last month had an announcement. Maybe it's bad news even, right? How have you thought about that? What was your response to that? And how did you? How are you guys change the organization based on that, or doing more of the goodness that we saw in the announcement? Shows that you've done a little bit of homework. It shows that you're prepared, and again, it's not in a challenging way. It's in a way that actually says there's 2 things going on here. Yes, you're interviewing me, and you want to know about my personal brand, but I'm interviewing you, and I want to know about your values. And the values and the culture of the company can come through with a very carefully crafted question that just asks in an unchallenging way, hey, how are you responding to the situation? Where are you going to go? Example of not a good question was one interviewer asked me a question about geopolitical risk in global expansion. It's like, my brain wanted to explode because, how do I answer that question that has any bearing on this one particular job, because I wasn't hiring a geopolitician. So again, bless his heart, great guy, but he just kind of got a little too strategic, a little too apt. I would tend to form my questions around something that might be germane to the company culture and a response to something you might have seen recently. Look, there's another way to look at this too. One other point I want to make on this is there's sometimes you are interviewing for a job. Now, everything I've said implies that you're fully prepared, you're fully capable, you have all the background. A lot of times you're going to apply for jobs when you're really not. Experience isn't really, might indicate that you're not ready. Now, you know you're ready, but your experiences wouldn't show that. So what you want to do in that case is to use this opportunity in your personal brand to redefine the job if you need to. Look, I'll give you one specific that happened to me. I was right out of university applying for a sales engineer job. And gosh, guys, I'm not an engineer. I have to tell you I'm not an engineer. And I impressed the first interviewer enough that I got to go to dinner with the ultimate decision maker and umpteen levels up above me. And he said, but I don't see anywhere in your background where you're an engineer. This job is a sales engineer. You need to sell electrical motors to big industrial operators. And so how will you do that if you're not an engineer? And my answer was, when I looked at the role, the part that you can teach me is the technical part. I'm sure you have wonderful training. I'll bet it's industry leading, in fact. And I'll bet you can show me how to understand the technical capabilities of the product. That's what you do. What you can't train me, or what I think I can bring to your company, are the interpersonal skills and the sales skills necessary to make this happen. So in a sales engineer blend, teach me this, and I have this in spades. So together they make a perfect applicant for you. Again, try to make it a little bit humorous, lighthearted, but it was very, very good targeted response, and I was offered the job. So again, that's your personal brand. You have many ways to announce it. There's some tips on maybe how to do that. The fourth thing I want to say is one about emotional intelligence. Please make sure that you give some time to think about the interviewers and what their experience is in the process of hiring somebody like this. It'll pay dividends to you. What I mean is this. Look, what if you have a 6 o'clock meeting? What if it's a 7 a.m. meeting? What time of day is it? Who's in the room? A lot of times they're panel meetings, which are really stressful, but if you redefine those, they're actually kind of fun because you get the chance to build a lot of advocacy in one meeting. So that's kind of efficient. But look, the whole idea is that emotional intelligence says, who are these people? What brought them here? And what's their experience even just before they walked in the room? Remember I said to bring your resume? That's a good indicator of emotional intelligence. But another way to apply this, and probably to bring this to a more specific level of detail, is one of the biggest mistakes people make. Again, it's understandable, logical, but it's not very effective, is to, when asked about your background, is they'll go over every detail of the background. I mean, I have to tell you, I've sat there at 7 o'clock at night and listened to somebody describe their career history, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and they basically almost talk themselves out of a job because I want to get to the point. I want to see why they're the best candidate for this job. And again, I can read. They're so polite to give me their resume, but I can read that. What a much more targeted focus is, if you're thinking about the decision-making challenges that the interviewers have, is to pull them to the things that you want them to see. Example, look, you can see by my background, I've done a bunch of different things, but I want to point to 3 of them that actually I learned 3 key things that bring me to this room right now that's going to make me, I believe, a good candidate for you. Thing number 1, I learned about growth. Thing number 2, I learned about transformation. You'd be a little more detailed than that, but you can imagine now the energy is different. You can see my confidence just increased over the beginning of this, bringing up this point number 4. It just has now increased because I'm in the flow. So the whole idea is put yourself in the flow by showing emotional intelligence and draw the interviewer to the things you want them to see, and don't leave it to them to just sort of figure it out. Tell them why it's important, what you did, why it's important, and how it applies to this job. Again, you can be direct. Take a few minutes. You don't have to hurry, but I think you can be much more effective if you do that. The other thing too is that as you look at those roles, everything is designed to not have an esoteric discussion of the role you're in. The idea is to say, how did that role, what were the key learnings, lead me here? So again, emotional intelligence helps you prepare for the time of the day, helps you understand what's going on the other side of the desk, and that just enables your communications to be so much more targeted, so much more energetic and focused. The last 2 things are really simple. I mean, you're going to laugh when you hear them. If I had said that they were the top 6 things, you probably wouldn't believe me. But I'll tell you what, 5th one is so simple. Ask for the job. It's amazing to me how many people don't do that. So the interview goes through, we get done, strategic questions, wonderful emotional intelligence. They even, showed how the resume, kind of came together and brings them to this candidacy for this job. Wonderful. We all kind of stand up and it's over. Look, ask for the job. They say, okay, I think that's it. I think this interview is done. Thanks a lot for your time. Say, yes, I just want to say thanks for your time. Gratitude is enormously important. And also, I want to let you know I'm really, really interested. It's been fun to talk to you today. I've learned a lot about this role that makes me even more excited than ever before. And I want you to consider me for the job. I hope I'm the best candidate because I'm ready to go right away. Or I'm ready to go to the next level of discussion, whatever you need, but I'm ready. Big, big difference without being pushy. Just ask for the job. Okay, sixth thing, wrapping up here. If you really want to put a bow on the package, if this is an interview package, you want to put a bow on top of that, thank you letter. Now, look, I've talked to people a lot about this, and I typically get the answer, oh, no. I thanked them during the interview. Of course you did. But thank them again. No. They said, I even asked them if there's anything else they need. They said they don't need anything else. Of course they did. Send them a thank you anyways. The point of it is not, do you need permission to send them a thank you letter? The point of it is, if you have the contact details of every single person, you show that you're organized. Next, you take the time to show gratitude. Always a nice thing to thank them for their time. If you were to tell them that you appreciated learning more about them, that's really good too, because it implies that there is a two-way sort of a transaction going on here, which is also important. But it gives you a chance to have another virtual interview. Your thank you letter can have 3 paragraphs. Thanking them, sharing again your top 3 qualifications. As I mentioned in the second paragraph, these are very, very brief paragraphs, 2 sentences maybe. As I mentioned, I've done this, this, and this, and they really bring me to qualify for this job very, very perfectly well. And the final one is then, once again, you ask for the job. As I mentioned, I'm ready for the job. I'd love to do it. I hope you contact me with a favorable response. My contact details are below. All the best, Mike. If you do that, you really polish the apple. Now, all 6 of those things together, I am telling you, you're in the top, 5 or 10% of all applicants. And you may have moved yourself from lower on the list of capabilities to top on the list just because you show you're so emotionally intelligent and that your personal brand matches the corporate culture and the corporate brand. So look, I hope this helps. These are, I've tried to provide some detail in each one of these 6 steps. I can tell you they will dramatically increase your chances of getting the job that you want. And the final tip that I'll give you, I hope you stuck around this long, the final tip I give you is almost the most important of all. As you go in the interview and as you sit there, and if you want to say what mindset helps me prepare for this in all the ways that delivers these 6 items, these 6 things that I need to do better, that I need to include in the interview, look at it as if you're applying for the job above this job. It's magical what happens when you sit there and you think about, oh, if I was going to be the boss of this person, how would I answer the questions? Because one day you are going to be the boss of this person and you need to be ready. All right, guys, thanks a lot for listening. I hope you have a good day. And from snowy Seattle here, Mike Amato saying goodbye. Till next time. See you.